I want to talk about some convention news. So this is from Daily Star Trek News. This is kind of I don't know if it's necessarily bad news. It's disappointing for some of us that like to go to Star Trek Vegas every year. I've gone for the last 2 years. It says the official Star Trek Las Vegas convention has been postponed to December due to COVID-19. So they did move the event. It's normally in August, and they did decide to literally move the event. It will no longer be at the Rio. They're actually moving it over to the Caesars Convention Center. So it's no longer going to be at the Rio. It's been at the Rio Hotel for a very long time. So not only is it moving in terms of date, so it's moving to December, it's also moving venue, which some people are going to be happy about that because some people don't particularly like the Rio. I kind of do. I kind of did like it. The Rio is kind of like a little bit off the strip while still kind of being on the strip, if that makes any sense. I mean, if anybody's been to the Rio, you know what I'm talking about. Like it's over the freeway overpass, but it's still pretty close to the strip. So if you want to take like an Uber or Lyft or something like that, it's really easy to get onto the strip. I've even walked it before. It's not that bad. But yeah, so they're moving the venue and they're moving the date. So some people might be a little upset about that. Some people might just be happy that it wasn't canceled. But there's actually some breaking news when it comes to conventions in convention news. This stuff just is like hot off the presses, and I had seen it trending on Twitter just as we were preparing for the show. We all thought that San Diego ComicCon was done. There was no way it was going to happen this year, that they canceled the event outright. Well, Collider is reporting San Diego ComicCon at home will begin July 22nd and free for all attendees. So it says San Diego Comic-Con has announced their plans for this summer's Comic-Con at home, taking place July 22nd to 26, 2020. And the big news is that it's free for everyone with no limits on how many can attend. If you've ever been to San Diego Comic-Con, you know it's always a challenge to attend the more popular panels, with thousands camping outside overnight to ensure that they'll get a seat inside. However, that won't be an issue this year since the entire con will be taking place online. In addition, one of the things people love about Comic-Con are the exclusives and limited merchandise you can only buy at the convention. According to Comic-Con, they have plans for an online exhibit hall, complete with everyone's favorite exhibitors offering promotions, specials, and limited edition products unique to the celebration. In addition, they will also have a masquerade, gaming, and many other activities in which fans can participate from their homes. San Diego Comic-Con spokesman David Glasser said, "For the first time in our 50-year history, we were happy to welcome virtually anyone from around the globe. Though stay-at-home conditions make this a very difficult time, we see this as an opportunity to spread some joy and strengthen our sense of community." So what do you think about this, Dave? This is hot off the presses that San Diego Comic-Con is happening and it's going to happen online.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. There's been all kinds of different groups and stuff that have been continuing to do sort of convention and panels, sort of kind of, experiences online. So it makes sense. San Diego Comic-Con was a very important venue for the movie studios primarily to promote a lot of their upcoming slate of films. And it's even crazier right now because all of these productions have been pushed back. Not even the ones that they probably were planning to announce now for the ones that had already been out, but they've got a lot of catch up and they've got to get people excited about the stuff that people are excited about before that have basically been postponed. So it makes a lot of sense. I hope that they'll definitely have some unique opportunities for people who normally would be like in the small press and stuff to talk about all the things that they normally do, because it is a very important event for a lot of different groups and a lot of different people. So we'll see. It makes sense. It would be free for all attendees. I mean, why would you tell people you can't watch my fun live stream thing I'm doing? We would never do that, so I can't imagine they would do that,
Well, there is a virtual con that I was actually going to talk about in a previous episode, but I didn't because of time. And they were charging for you to see the panels, and they were actually using Twitch. Really? They were using Twitch to host their panels. and they were charging you in order to watch them. Now, you could watch them on the repeats for free, but if you wanted to watch them live, and I assume that was also part of, like, if you wanted to ask questions, you could go onto the, the forum and stuff like that. You go onto the chat, you
Right,
could ask
right.
questions. You had to pay. When it repeated, you could watch it for free. And that's one of the reasons I didn't really push it also, was because I was like, I don't know. But obviously, we were joking off the air, Dave and I, that they stole our idea, because we were talking about doing a virtual con when all this stuff started to happen and trying to put something together. And then, of course, someone local, a fairly big local comic book publisher, went ahead and did something like that. And
Yeah.
then, it became like, and then people started doing all these different things. And it was like, okay, well, I guess this isn't going to happen. Everybody's just going to do their own thing. Nobody really wants to get organized and do this together. But San Diego Comic-Con can do it. I mean, there's no doubt about it. They have the brand and all that kind of stuff where they can get the big names. And I think it's awesome that it's free. I think that's awesome. I think that's a great thing. And I think that I'm hoping it's going to be a really fun thing for fans, that they'll be able to do this, because, I haven't gone to San Diego Comic-Con in years, and I went every year for about a decade. And my Comic-Con experience started as a vendor. The first Comic-Con that I ever went to, I think, was in 99 or 2000. And I went there and I had self-published a comic book. Well, actually, I hadn't self-published the book yet. I went there with my partner, who was also my roommate at the time. He was an artist. And we had promo pictures for the different books that we wanted to do. And we had no idea what we were doing. But we got a table at San Diego Comic-Con, and we handed out flyers and stuff like that for the books that we were planning on doing, to see if we get any interest. And that's what we did. We actually dressed up at some of our own characters. My dad actually dressed up as a character that was based on him, and we used to have him come out and do stuff. And that was the first 3 years at San Diego Comic-Con. I went there as a vendor. And then after that, I used to go as a professional, because I had self-published a book. One of the nice things at the time was, if you had done something like that, San Diego Comic-Con would let you attend attend the convention for free. They would give you a pro pass, and you could go there for free. You could even bring a guest back in those days. And I saw it go, literally, I saw it the first time I went, it was still half the size. And I think you went during that era as well, Dave, where it was like half the size of what it is now. And I remember thinking that was huge. And then I remember when they doubled it and they added, the ballroom 20 and the hall H and all that stuff. But the first, I think, two conventions I went to, San Diego Comic-Con, it was literally half the size. And I remember thinking that was ginormous. So I haven't gone in years, and I think it's kind of neat, the possibility, at least, of, because I've always been a panel guy. I like panels. That was always the thing that I liked the most about San Diego Comic-Con, was all the professional panels. And man, you could get access to just so many different kinds of people. It was just amazing. So many professionals. We talked about that off the air, where, like, I remember talking to one of the development people from Warner Brothers Television, where basically I had the guy's card. I could have gotten a pitch with him. You know what I mean? Because I had his card, I had his information, So it was an interesting experience, and it's been years since I've gone. It's been years since I've gone to San Diego.
Yeah, the first year I went was in 1993, I think it was. And I was actually in San Diego actually for the Joe Kubert School, which they do comics and sequential art. They used to have an animation program. I don't know if the animation program still functions anymore or not. I assume it does. The Joe Kubert School is sort of the premier school for people who want to learn comic art and illustration. At least it has been for many, many years. School still functions in Dover, New Jersey. It's the one school I've always wanted to attend. And at the time, I had actually just left college, Memphis College of Art, in dispute. I'll spare everyone that story. But I was actually in San Diego to actually go to one of their summer institutes. They used to do these things they called the Summer Institute. Sometimes they'd last 4 days, sometimes it last 3. And it was taught by these various professionals. It was a very comics intensive program. And that year was one of the 4-day programs. And so I was there, and I got to have classes, have classes with Joe Kubert, Jose Delbo, Erwin Hasen. And it was amazing. And then because San Diego Comic-Con was going on at the same time, what would happen is during the day we would have our classes, and then there would be a period of time where we sort of had our free time. And part of our free time, they were encouraging us to take samples and go over and do portfolio reviews. I learned a lot, and it was a weekend full of a lot of rejection. I'll never forget that. But it was a really cool and amazing opportunity, and really cool that I got to meet Joe, and then Adam and Andy, his sons, were actually there. I got to meet a lot of the Kubert School. There was a lot of alumni that actually came by too, and they would just hang out in the class, waiting for the classes to be over to actually hang out with and talk to the instructors. It was really interesting. But that was the first year I went, and I don't even think it was half the convention center back then, Eric. I think it was like a quarter of it. I mean, it was nothing compared to the next time that I went. I actually went with my wife, and we just went as attendees, and it was many years later. And at that point, they pretty much occupied the entire convention center itself. It was crazy. And I know my wife and we went twice just as attendees. And then my mom wants me to talk about the story about my brother with the rolling backpack. We'll do that another time, Mom. Because we're running kind of long on time, but I would love to tell that story about my brother and his rolling backpack. But then there's a lot of other funny stories that go along with that. We'll have to do a con story experience episode where we can all share our con experience.
Well, that's going to be great as a lead up to Comic-Con.
Yeah,
we can do a lead up when we do our episode before San Diego Comic-Con actually happens, because we obviously have to do San Diego Comic-Con coverage for the show.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a no-brainer. You know what I mean? So maybe we'll do a lead up to Comic-Con, and we'll talk about some of our stories and things like that. Maybe we can even get a guest or something.
We'll
work on that.
What would be fun is if we did it where we shared maybe some of the things we got at Comic-Con too.
I have some stuff, but it's all in boxes, so I got to find it. You know what I mean? I have one of my really cool pieces is I have the Spider-Man that turns into Stan Lee.
Oh, okay, cool.
And I don't know where it is, so I got to find it. You know what I mean? So, but I have some interesting pieces like that, some Comic-Con exclusives and things like that. I have a big collection of the programs, you know what I mean, and all that kind of stuff. So we could definitely do a lead up. I think we could do a really good lead up to Comic-Con. So folks, stay tuned for that. We're going to do something. Dave and I will meet privately later, and we'll talk about that. That sound like a plan, Dave?
Yeah, it does. It does. And because I was going to say, I've got all kinds of fun con stories, and some interesting behind the scenes stuff about DC. Because I had a lot of actually professional meetings actually there to discuss projects that we ended up getting passed over. I'll be able to talk about some of that. That gives me a great opportunity to showcase some of the CGI Batman art that Scott Clark and I actually created that was part of a pitch project that led to us working on Batman Incorporated. A lot of people have never seen that, and we could actually showcase that on the show, and I could actually talk about that whole crazy experience. That would be really cool. Let's definitely do that.
Yeah, I think that'll be fun. That'll be fun.
So I'll save my con story, rest of my con story I was about to tell. I'll just save that for that episode. But no, we'll get into that further, because I was actually an exhibitor for several years as a self-publisher, and then actually went back as official talent roster actually for DC Comics, and signed at the booth one year and all that kind of stuff. It was fun. So
the DC booth was always a landmark. That was always like the place. If you were in a group, hey, meet up at the DC booth.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I remember the year that Marvel didn't have a booth, which was infamous and crazy. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's lots of stories about Comic-Con. Now, James mentions that apparently the Boston Fan Expo has been canceled into 2021. So that's disappointing for those of you folks that live in that area or attend that particular con. I mean, we've seen con after con that's been canceled. But I guess that's one good thing about what happened with the Star Trek Vegas, is that it wasn't canceled. It was simply moved to December. And for people that aren't aware, Vegas is pretty much open now, as far as I understand it. Most of the casinos are back open now. James does ask, he says, I wonder if they will do an artist alley for the fans or with fans. And that's a good question. And I think those kind of questions are still kind of up in the air. It would be my guess right now, because the end of that article, it said that the details haven't all been worked out yet. I didn't read that part of it. At the end of the article said that all the details haven't been worked out. So it will be interesting to see if they do incorporate any kind of an artist alley into this virtual convention.
Well, I can tell you this, James, what we could do here on the Retro Rogue show is I could reach out to some of my friends and contacts and see if we couldn't do sort of an interesting artist alley thing as a part of our lead up show. Maybe I could try and line up some people and we could talk to probably 3 or 4 comic artists actually here on the show. I do happen to actually know a few.
That would be very cool. I think that would be cool. We're definitely going to have to pitch some ideas to each other, Dave. And obviously, those of you in the Rogue Gallery, if you have some ideas too about a special lead up to Comic-Con episode and things that you want to hear, let us know. And then, of course, as the convention is going, we'll basically react to it probably with the episode afterwards to talk about all the different news. So there'll be like, I would think two episodes, one being a lead up, and then the other one being where we kind of digest the highlights of Comic-Con. It'll be fun. We'll do something special for that.